All right, Mr. Mekanix, it's good to finally talk to you and have your conversation. How are you, man?
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me. This is really cool. We've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah,
So I appreciate you. Thanks.
yeah, for sure. There's a lot to get into. There's so much about you that I don't know. Obviously, there's so much. There's only a little bit I think I've discovered, so I can't wait to get you to help me fill in those details. When I uh,
Sure.
when I first came across your music, I think the first song I ever heard of yours was a great big anthemic song called "Victorious." Victorious. That was sent out to me. I don't know if it was by you or your record label at the time. It's been a while ago, but is that where it started for you? Where does Wax Mekanix story start? Basically, let's go right to the beginning and we'll go from there.
Well, we're going to try to be brief, so bear with me.
Yeah,
Here's the abbreviated version. Um, as you can tell, I'm not in my early 20s, so I started my music career in the early 80s with an American cult rock metal act called Nitro. And we did some stuff in Pennsylvania on our own. And then we got picked up by a European label and we made some records. And that's where I sort of cut my chops. And fast forward to the 2000s, after lots of playing in various permutations of Nitro throughout the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, I hooked up with Electric Talent and did a solo thing. So I was part of, and we have a bit of a pedigree, small but real. And we formed in 1980, released our first record in early 82. And we were coming at the world kind of like the Metallicas, obviously not of that stature, but that's where it happened. So I was one of the primary songwriters of Nitro. And as songwriters are wont to do, we just keep on writing. So after some songs piled up, I hit studio again, sort of solo, and stretched out and kind of did it seriously and made a serious record in 2020 called Mobocracy, and that was released by Philadelphia label Electric Talent. And Victorious is on that.
let me ask you, because you mentioned your band Nitro. That's not to be confused with the late '80s American Los Angeles band with Jim Gillette. Nitro. That's not the same band, correct?
That's correct. Let me just qualify that by saying we started in 1980, and we were sort of new wave of British heavy metal influenced, three
Right.
piece, loud, searing, slamming, certainly not glam. And although I like the LA Nitro and I know Jim a little bit, we're not the same. They came out of LA and did the whole glam thing, which was really cool for them, but that's certainly not us. And we weren't trying to pass ourselves off as them, and I know they weren't trying to pass themselves off as us.
Yeah.
So, two different things. Common word. I don't
How
know
did that
if
work with the
there's
licensing, like the name brand? Did they like you had it first? Did you guys have it? Like, how did that work?
well, there was no real squabble. I mean, we were relatively small time, frankly. You know, independent, scrappy, and by the time they came up, we had stopped making records at that point. So some I won't go through the gory detail, but in short, we took a break and stopped recording and stopped touring and still hung out as friends and played in different permutations. And we knew about them and we were digging them because we liked that kind of stuff as well as all other kinds of things. So
Yeah, and
we never were in contact with them on a business level.
yeah, and Jim's voice. Well, back in the day, for sure. I mean, there's videos of him out there breaking glass with his voice. There was a big deal about that. They never got over the hump themselves. They didn't get to a major thing. They didn't have a big, huge hit. Maybe "Freight Train" might have been their best known song on
Yeah.
MTV, but they never made over the hump. They came at the end of the wave of that too. So I mean, it just never seemed to work out. So you can kind of you can see that parallel there a little bit
Yep.
between the two bands, but different sounds, obviously. Just for clarity for people who
Yeah.
don't know, if they think, "Oh, you're talking about Jim Gillette's band," no, we're talking about something which maybe people don't know, but it's good to dig into that and maybe get some attention. Did you guys have records out there from your Nitro? Do you have like music that's still available people can check out?
Sure. Long story short is if folks bump up against me, they can find links to there's a Nitro Bandcamp site that where you can get all those kinds of things. So we did some independently released stuff, and then we were signed to Mausoleum Records, which is sort of a boutique European label that did all kinds of fun stuff in the early 80s. And then later on, like in the early 2000s, we did some releases with some other record companies. Boy, oh boy. So there's about 5 records floating around out there that people can get if they want to. Simply Google Nitro and you'll find us. The albums are called Lethal, Volatile Activity. There's a compilation called Lethal Dose. There's another one called Do You Want to Rock? So
there's lots out there by the sounds of it. Okay.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. But we had a lot of stuff in the studio and a lot of reissues and digging up some rarities, that kind of stuff, anthologies. So mostly new wave of British heavy metal, old school stuff that we're really proud of, and a lot of fun, and certainly not the Nitro from LA, but we like that stuff too. And there was never anything but love between us, and I'm digging that stuff too.
Oh, that's good to hear. So let me get your timeline correct then. So when you guys broke up, I'm going to say it's the late 80s, early 90s for your Nitro. Then 2020 is your solo record. That's a long period of time between, as far as musical output, unless I'm missing something. So what kept you busy through the 90s and early 2000s musically? What were you doing, or were you completely out of music? Were you checked out?
Well, it sounds kind of arty-farty, but the reality is that I just, after Nitro, I was interested in other things. So I had another career, and put music on the back burner. We didn't go on to become Metallica, so a
lot of people did.
yeah. So that was the original plan. So Mike Clark Kent is as an engineer. I was always interested in that kind of stuff. Nitro guitarist John Hazel was also an engineer. And
oh wow.
We remained buddies. We played a lot. We did some recording. Played with other bands. Did some local stuff. So. We stopped trying to be, rock stars and got a real job, but musicians and songwriters just keep plowing along. And that was with great joy. Had families and still remain friends. And then John and I were writing most of the material for Nitro. I was predominantly driving a lot of that creatively. So I just kept on writing, and the songs piled up. And got a little bit of an itch and made some connections in the Philadelphia area to some cool studios and producers, and started to hit the studio. In between the end of Nitro, formally, which was probably about 87, and about 2008, 2009, I was simply just living a different life and playing a little bit, kicking around in bands and having some fun, not doing it too seriously. And then I had a little more time and found this outlet here in Philadelphia that I wanted to make some real records again. And I wanted to do it from a solo perspective. Not, Nitro's not done or defunct or broken up. We just stopped recording. And, we in 2013, we released a new single, by the way, on one of those records. So
I gotta check that out. Yeah, that's kind of escaped me. I gotta go back and check that out for people listening, and for me myself. I'm gonna go back and have a dig into that. That sounds cool.
It was a lot of fun, and it was cool to revisit that. So what I kind of do with Nitro is very focused. We have a really narrowly defined mission statement with Nitro. It is new wave of British heavy metal influence, focused through the influences of the 4 guys in the band, and it's a democracy. And there is a very specific mission there. So we had fun doing that. I still like to do that. And boy, parts of my head really need that kind of thing. But then when I was doing my own solo stuff, I could expand a little bit and stretch out and do all kinds of different stuff. And it was more of a dictatorship. So that's kind of fun. So in about, in the 2000s, the songs piled up, and probably about 2015, the songs started to coalesce and focus on a particular subject, a vibe, for lack of a better term, that we started feeling in 2016 up through 2020. And that really did put the focus on the songs. And that's what really, everything kind of came together and coalesced nicely. And I said, I've got a record here. And Electric Town said, you've got a record here. So bang, zoom, there we were.
Did you find them or did they find you?
I found them, and because they were in Philly, and I was really interested in local labels, and was just I kind of kept my finger on the pulse of what was going on, and I didn't know that there was this fledgling metal label, and I said, these guys are cool, and I checked out some of their music, and I said, I like this, and I reached out to him, and the guy who heads the label is named Stephen Burdick.
Yes.
And I said, hey man, really like what you're doing. And here's what I'm up to. And even though my stuff was slightly different than the most of the fare on Electric Talon, he's like, hey, let's do a record. I said, I'm in.
Were you, I know obviously you're singing on your stuff. You're the singer in Nitro as well too, right? When you sang?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I was writing stuff on guitar. My role in the band was as the drummer and a backup vocalist.
Oh.
Lead singer is still the voice of Nitro is a fella named Dana Confer. Dana Confer is this wonderful, funky, organic brew of a little bit of Ted Nugent, a little bit of Steven Tyler, a little bit of Rob Halford, a little bit of, it was, he brought to it classic frontman of the late 70s, early 80s. Great guy, super dude, still my brother. Love Dana. Love the rest of the guys in the band, but yeah, he was doing all the singing.
Because I was going to ask you then, it sounds like you were even doing some singing back then, but now of course it's you. You're the front guy. It's your singing. It's your vision. How did you feel doing this on your own vocally? Did you feel like now that you're stepping front and center, did you feel confident in that? Did you have to kind of work at that? Did you always want to be the one singing your material? How did that come together?
Well, everything is in service, Chad, of the songwriting. I mean, that sounds kind of arty-farty, but I'm just going to be honest about it. My gig was always as a songwriter. I played drums because I was a songwriter, and we were writing cool songs. And I was in my teens and early 20s at the time, so that's like a sporting event. Right. You know, it wasn't so much art as it was like a sport. Yeah. So I was an athlete and still am, and I really responded to that. I could play guitar and harmonica and was writing. And so to answer the question, Nitro was fun because I served a different role, and I was singing backing vocals there too. And because we had this really cool unit that we landed on with Nitro, I really enjoyed having my role as the drummer because that satisfied me. And then I could write the songs on guitar. That satisfied me. I'd go in the studio, cut backing vocals. That satisfied me. So there was nothing really lacking in Nitro for me. As a matter of fact, it was not much different than what I started doing with my solo stuff. Stepping out front, I'm a songwriter, and I wanted to do a solo thing because these particular songs, I thought I could probably do these pretty good. And I had no great desire to be a front man, had no great desire to do any of that. It was all about the song. And I know that sounds weird and cliched and whatever, but there you have it. I wrote these cool songs and I thought I can do these, and played guitar on some of them, played drums on all of them, did backing vocals, did lead vocals, even shared some of the writing with some buddies of mine. So if you look closely at the credits on the record, you'll see that most of them were written by me, but I did share some of that. Surrounded myself with some really cool pals that had an open mind and said, hey, we'll follow you anywhere. And there we are.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. Somewhere in the middle of that, and I don't know because I kind of get things mixed up because I get a lot of music. Let's be honest, I get a lot of things from Electric Talon, but from a lot of record labels, so things come my way. But I'm pretty sure I saw from you recently, maybe within the last year, there was a EP that was done with you and another band, a split EP. I think Head was the name of it, or one of the songs on it. I think I could be wrong. Was that done? Right. Was that done just in between, just after? Is that the most recent thing, or where does that fit in? Your split EP with the other band. I forget the name of the band too. I think it's Troll Teeth. Is that correct?
You got a great memory, brother. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
So the sequence of events was I was with Nitro, got a real life, kept writing, hooked up with Electric Talon, made Mobocracy, which was a 6-song EP, was heavy, snarling rock, guitars, bass, drums, some other sort of electronic industrial stuff thrown in there for fun. Very focused on a theme, but it was a heavy, snarling, slamming rock record that people know me for relative to Nitro. Then I was asked after Mobocracy came out, Electric Talon said, hey man, what do you want to do next? I said, well, what can we do? And they offered up this idea of doing a split. And I said, I'm cool. Never did one of those. I like that idea. It's not a compilation. It's a little more focused.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, who can I do it with? And they said, well, here are all the bands on
Our
Electric
roster.
Talent. You
Yeah.
want to do one with Troll Teeth? And I said, wow, this could not be cooler, because I knew the songs I was writing, and I knew the songs I was going to release next, and I knew what Troll Teeth did, which was really cool, really prescient, really thoughtful, heavy, stoner, interesting stuff with Mo and the boys that I liked, but it was dramatically different than what I was writing at the time. So we got together, and they brought 2 songs on the EP, which is called Blunt.
Yes.
And that was released in 2021. I brought a handful of songs. 2 songs made it. I had some leftovers, so there's basically 3 songs that I brought to Blunt. Now, the interesting part to this was really cool from my perspective. It allowed me to bring songs to this EP that were connected to Mobocracy thematically, but were sonically different. I know that sounds weird, and I'll be brief.
No, I get that, because that's exactly how it sounded to me when I heard them. I'm like, oh, this is different. This is not what because when I heard Victorious and other stuff, I'm like, okay, I think I know who this, what he's going to be about, right? And I heard these songs, and or the one song, and I'm, oh, we're going all over the place here. I can't just put it in one box, which is fine, which is great. I'm like, okay, this is telling me something new.
Now, let me just state for the record that I'm not doing this deliberately to call attention to myself. At this stage of my life and of my career, my mission statement is pretty simple. We do what makes me happy. And I know that sounds weird, and I'm glad that people are responding to it in a positive way. But what I decided to do was, I've got this focused mission with Nitro. If I like that, and I can do that with those guys, and I love to do it when we do it. But with the solo stuff, I want to sort of explore all the kinds of things that I'm digging.
That's what it's for. That's what solo records are for, to expand a bit. There's people out there who have a main band, and then they do a solo record. It sounds like their main band, especially if they're the singer. You kind of don't get away from it. And it's like, I get the idea you can work with different people, but are you really, if you're not creating something that sounds different? I mean, people can do what they want, but it's cool, is what I'm trying to say, is when people step away from what they may be, quote unquote, known for, right? So
now, let me just qualify what I said about me doing something different with. This guy here loves AC/DC, does not want them to do anything different, please. Do not want a concept album from them, don't want an acoustic album from them. I don't want anything different. I love them. They are part of my DNA. But I also love Queen, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Neil Young.
The other spectrum from that, people who do all kinds of different special, especially Neil Young. There's one that does a bunch of no record sounds the same, and he definitely doesn't want that.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a good example.
So Nitro is one thing. If and when Nitro does more records, that will be Nitro. And if you listen to the track I was alluding to, a single we released, I believe, in 2013.
What was it called again?
It's a song called Uranium.
Okay.
Like the nuclear material.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Nitro 2013, and it was glorious, and we loved it, and it satisfied everybody. It sounded like Nitro, but in 2013. Beautiful thing. And then I came and made my record, Mobocracy, and people were like, whoa, doesn't sound anything like Nitro. Kind of a little bit, but boy, you're doing some different
way
stuff.
Far off, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and then
cool.
I did Blunt, which was sort of tribal, organic, mysterious, ethnic. It had no electric instruments on it. The 3 songs that I delivered for Blunt, not a single damn electric instrument on it. And that was deliberate. It wasn't something I was contriving. I got to be honest with you, Chad. I was following the tunes where they wanted to go. And people will roll their eyes at that and say, yeah, Mr. Arty Farty. But that's what I was doing. And the same way with Mobocracy. That record came together on its own, and I followed it. So I learned a long time ago to follow the records where they want to go. And that was what I did with Blunt. And I'm working on something right now that is completely different from Blunt, and it's probably going to be out in early 23. And it is heavy. It is trippy. Think of Black Sabbath meets Hendrix meets the Beach Boys.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I'm coming up with next. People may or may not like it, but there you have it. So, Blunt was that particular sound, and this next record's going to be something different. Just because I'm feeling it, I'm following them where they want to go.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I totally get that. I'm glad you're doing that too. That's very cool to hear. Let me ask you, Ben. So you mentioned that when you were starting doing these songs in 2020, you didn't think you had a record. Then all of a sudden, with Electric Talon, they said you have a record here, and you said, okay, now I have a record here. Talk to me about the title Mobocracy. Where did you come up with that? What does that mean exactly? Do people call it Mobocracy? How do you get? Because I almost did at one point. I'm sure if you hadn't said it, I might have done it. Oops. So where did the title come from, and how does it fit in?
Well,
And do
that's
you have
pretty
to correct
cool.
people when they say it wrong?
Well, the beautiful thing is that, and I say this with as much love and appreciation and thankfulness as I can. I've been talking with people all over the world, and they pronounce it multiple ways,
Yeah.
and that thrills me, brother. That thrills me that I'm even getting the chance to do that. So,
Oh, that's a nice way to look at it. Yeah,
you're,
that's
you're
cool. Yeah.
you're in Canada and I'm in the U.S., and just the simple fact that we're talking about our cool interests together thrills me, and that's genuine. So, now to answer the question, I was putting the record together, and honestly, I was just kind of in about 2015, 2016. I was just recording a bunch of songs because that's what I was doing at the time, and I found out I was gravitating toward these particular set of songs, about 8 or 9 songs, and they all thematically had the same sort of thing going on. America and the rest of the world was going through some sideways, wacky times, man.
Yeah.
So it was social, it was political, it was economic. We were going, technology was creeping into our lives in a weird way.
Oh yeah.
So we were, the vibe that everybody knows but has trouble putting their fingers on was creeping up on me too, and it was permeating just about everything I was doing. And the songwriting, again, I was following them. I was writing tunes, not deliberately. This is how they were coming out. They were coming out aggressive and heavy, and thematically they were similar. And if you listen to All Freaks on the record, if you listen to Black, if you listen to Victorious and Blood in My Eyes, they all are minding the same thing. That America and the world going through some really dark, aggressive times, and that's what was happening. And then it came to a point where I had to think of a title for the record after I decided what songs I was going to put on it. And I was kicking some ideas around, and I shit you not, I was thinking of different titles, and I stumbled upon this word Mobocracy, and I knew of it, and I knew by definition it means rule by the masses, rule by the mob.
Okay. Mob rules. Yeah.
Mob Rules,
Yeah.
Black Sabbath.
Yeah, there you go.
Mob Rules.
Yes.
Love that album, and I love that song. That's
Yeah.
part of my DNA for sure. Those first 2 Black Sabbath albums with Ronnie, I just loved them.
Yeah.
And in any case, Mobocracy, as soon as I thought of that, and it's funny, as I'm thinking about reliving this, the hairs are standing up on my arms again, because that's what happened to me when I thought these records need a name, or these songs need a name, a collective name, and what's it going to be. And I kicked some other things around, which I won't mention, but none of them really felt right. And I am here to tell you that I said that word to myself, and the hair on my arm stood up, and it still does. So whether or not people appreciate it or have that same visceral response to it is irrelevant to me. It did that for me, and it still does that for me. So
that's
Mobocracy described it. So I'm trying to be an artist that is doing what I want to do, not because I'm an arrogant ass, but because I would think that those people that I would like to have in my audience would want that from me, because that's what I want from great artists that I follow, like Bob Dylan, Neil Young, just off the top of my head, Led Zeppelin. I don't want to dictate to them what they should be doing. I'm coming to them to see their perspective and to view their art the way they want to present it to the world. That's my relationship with the artists that I love, like the Dylans of the world. I'm not going to tell Bob, hey man, can you give me Blonde on Blonde again? Hey, could I have another Blood on the Tracks? Nah, that's not how I roll with Bob or with Neil or with Led Zeppelin.
That's what people are doing now, though. If you notice, if you look online, which I don't recommend you do it, especially as an artist, putting art out there, putting your work out there. There's so many people out there are so quick. We have too much access to artists. You can tweet the president if you want to. You can talk to anybody. You can say, hey, this sucks. You suck. I hate you. Like you had to put some real effort into that back in the 80s and 90s. You had to go get on a plane, get on a train, get on a bus, go down and see them at the show just to yell, hey, you suck. Nowadays, anyone can critique, and everyone's an armchair quarterback, and it's just ridiculous. And it's just it gets in your head if you let it, which you shouldn't. So it's just weird that people can even have that opinion. They want you to write a record that was 20, 30 years ago. Why? If you like that record so much, You have it. Go listen to it.
Been there, done that. I might do it again,
Yeah.
know, and I agree with you. It's a weird place to be as an artist. I'm a big boy, Chad. I don't let that stuff spook me at all. I'm confident enough in my own creative voice. Again, without sounding too arty farty, that's my job. My job is to be true to myself and to deliver my perspective on it. What they say in Willy Wonka, we are the music makers.
Yeah.
We are the dreamers of the dreams or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
So my role in this is to do that. That's what I'm inspired to do. And frankly, I enjoy that back and forth. Times change. Social media, technology has changed the way we interact with artists. And there's always some upside and some downside to it. I'm a sunny side of the mountain kind of guy, and I love it. And I read and listen to what people say. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I want to do. And even though I said earlier, please AC/DC, don't make a concept or an acoustic album. If they decide to do it, I'll check it out. And there's probably got to be a damn good reason why they're doing it. So those artists that I trust them. If Bob comes out or if Neil comes out with a different kind of album, I'm going to check it out. Now, I'm going to qualify that by saying a lot of the stuff that they do, I'm not digging the way I do some of their other stuff. But hey, that's the relationship that we have with our artists. So that's my posture. Yeah, it was fine. And that's when I put out Blunt, with the different sonics, people were asking that question like, oh man, it's not the same as Mobocracy. It's not Mobocracy 2.0. I said, there you go. Get used to it.
Yeah, go listen to that. Obviously, that's good in one way. If people are digging Mobocracy, they can go back and listen to it and they can see what else you're putting out in your catalog. But if they don't like it, hey, they always got Mobocracy. So I don't see what the problem is, but I'm just one person. So just one man with one opinion.
There's a lot of room.
Yeah, there's room for a lot of different things, right? And like you said, you can go back to some of that style too. You never know. Speaking of that, a few minutes before we started talking, I heard the song that you sent me this week, which is Freak Boutique. And man, I love it. At first, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, where is this going? But then when the chorus started coming, it gets stuck in your head. Angels, Devils, like it's great. Where does that come from? Is that something that's not on the record that's brand new? Is it coming on a record? Where is Freak Boutique? Which I really love. And people should check that out too. Yeah, it's great. I'm not just saying that because you're here, because it's a great song. I love it.
Well, first of all, let me say that as I'm sincere when I say that is thrilling feedback for a songwriter and a performer, and that is no joke, man. My goal was to satisfy myself, but then it satisfies other people. That is really cool. So I can't say that enough, and that thrill never wears off. I've been making records for 40 plus years, and it never gets old. So Freak Boutique, if you look closely, is on Blunt.
Yes.
And what Mobocracy was continued thematically on Blunt. That was my idea, was to have a continue the conversation with my audience, but sonically, the songs wanted to be different. So Freak Boutique and Head, and there's another tune called Manchester Strawberry Blonde. They share similar sonics, but they're thematically connected to Mobocracy. Said all that to say that then Electric Talent said, hey man, let's do a physical release and tie these two records together like you want to, because we released stuff during the pandemic. It was all digital. And because of economics of small labels, they wanted to dip their toe in and see how it goes. And then Mobocracy was, I'm not tooting my own horn, but just for statistical analysis here, Mobocracy was Grammy balloted. So
really? Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But we had no physical, and it was all digital release at the time because of the economics of a small label. We're trying to see its way through the pandemic, and boy, do I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Stephen Electric Talent said, "Hey, let's before you release your next record, the one I was describing you, the trippy, heavy Black Sabbath meets Hendrix meets Beach Boys thing." He said, why don't we do a physical release of Mobocracy, and let's bring Blunt into it because the songs are similar. They have creative connective tissue. And so we'll put all the Mobocracy and all the Blunt on the record. And also, what else you got that would make it interesting and of value to your audience? So I have some interesting alternates and outtakes on it. And that is called Mobocracy Deluxe.
Okay.
And that's
good
kind
title.
of de rigueur. Yeah. So That's out. Just released that on the 28th of October, and it's comes out in CD right now. Are we going to be doing any other form? Not sure. We'll see how that goes.
If you're listening to audio, he's got the CD up right now. But if you're looking at the video, which I encourage you to do, he's got the Deluxe Mobocracy, which is all red cover, which is great. It stands out. You're a fan of red, are you?
Oh, well, the records. If you look at the covers, again, I follow it. I needed something that was sort of aggressive and popping and in your face, and red was the color for Mobocracy.
Yeah.
Always felt red, and I got a little bit of synesthesia, which is associating colors with all kinds of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a little touch of that, and I've always had it. So whenever I was thinking of the record, I knew that it had to be a red one. I didn't know how deep or what the hue was, but it was a red thing. I've got this next record, and it feels like it's black and white with maybe some purple in it.
Nice.
But, that's for another time.
Is it going to be a picture of you on the cover at some point, smiling or not smiling? Are we going to get one of those, or too soon to tell? I don't want to do any spoilers, but put a picture of you in red up there, Wax. It should be fun.
Well, like I was saying earlier, I got a face for radio, and at this point, Blunt has actually, I think I'm on there. Me and Troll Teeth are standing together on the front of that one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
and it's also got these sepia tones, these organic colors go into it, and that's what that record felt like to me. It felt organic and sepia toned. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but again, my synesthesia sort of kicks in. So the next record we'll see. It feels like it's black and white, but not monochromatic. Maybe with some purples in there, and I'm seeing some metallic greens and maybe some golds. We'll see if it happens, but this is where I'm feeling it so far. We haven't put the artwork together yet.
That's cool.
But Freak Boutique, we needed a single. Obviously, in these times, we need to have a visual component and a quote-unquote single to release with it to any album release. So that was part of it, and it was fun. And so I put together a video for Freak Boutique, and it's on Mobocracy Deluxe. And I made a
cool video.
Yeah, you saw it. It was made with a filmmaker buddy of mine here in the Pennsylvania area. His name is Alex Wagner. Alex and I made some other stuff together. From Blunt, we did Manchester Strawberry Blonde, a short video to that.
That's the other song I forgot about, the Manchester Strawberry Blonde. That's the other song I heard, and I couldn't think of it. But when you mentioned it, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's coming back to me now.
That's a cool record because that has nothing but drums and singing on it.
Yeah, no, I know. I noticed that. I was like, oh, this is different. Yeah, I'm not sure what to expect, but it's cool. People should check that out too.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Our particular genre. I'm a rock artist. I realize that, and at my core, that's what I do. But you listen to any Zeppelin album, you'll get some different stuff on there, man.
Oh yeah.
Even if I'm a big Van Halen fan. You listen to some of those Van Halen records, Spanish Fly.
Yeah, that whole Diver Down record is something different. When not the covers, but if you listen to the originals that are on there, it's something different going on. And then you go to 1984, and something really different was happening, depending on where you stand. So yeah, it's a good example too.
So Manchester Strawberry Blonde felt like it needed to be on Blunt, and it was written around the end of Mobocracy, as were Freak Boutique and Head. They were written sort of in that same time period toward the end of me making Mobocracy. So they were in communication with those songs, but they wanted to be different. So I said all that to say that Freak Boutique, it stands on its own, and basically what I wanted to say was, we're all kind of unique in our way, and we want to pursue our own passions and our own unique experience here on the planet. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to encourage that. And but I'm also going to say, hey, there may be a price to be paid for this.
Yeah.
So, I was using the two obvious freaks of our experiences in the 20th century, and obviously before I was mentioning Gandhi in there, who was the ultimate freak, who walked his own path for sure. And I also mentioned Christ, Jesus in there. And although obviously he wasn't from the 20th century, but walked his own path, if you believe that kind of stuff. So
it's a great message. It's a great song. It just gets in your head too. And your style of singing for that is just, it fits it perfectly with the jangly guitar. It's great. I just love it.
It was a lot of fun, and I'm thrilled that you appreciate it. And thank you very much.
For sure. I know you got you got other things coming up. My Zoom runs out real soon. I hate this 40-minute version of it. So I want to ask you a couple quick things. The main thing being live shows, touring. What does that look like for you? Do you do that? Have you done it in the Philadelphia area? Have you planned on doing shows? If you haven't, what does the live aspect come for you? And do you have one? Do you have a
Yes,
plan for that?
I do, and I'll be brief because we're limited in time. I appreciate that. So I busk all the time. I travel the world. I busk all over the world, and I can put a fine point on that for anybody who wants to know about it. Busking is, you know what that is, playing live without a net,
streets.
out in the streets.
Yep.
Do that all the time. During the pandemic, did that a lot. Now, live stuff, yes. My band is in rehearsals now. It's 4-piece. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be searing. It's going to be raw, punky, snotty, nasty. We're going to reimagine the songs on Mobocracy and blunt into some that you haven't heard yet. And probably, let's see, first gig is going to be in 2023 in rehearsals now. And it'll probably be locally at first just to see how this is going to play, if there's any interest. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's going to be aggressive. And I am a live performing animal, and I did it a lot whenever I was between Nitro and my solo stuff. I did the busking all the time, and I was just digging it. It scratched my itch as a performer, and it strengthened my skin quite a bit too.
That's cool. That's cool to hear. Any Nitro songs going to make it there, even in an acoustic form or something? Do you have someone who can sing that? Are you going to give it a try, or are you just going to leave that as a separate entity when you go out?
We haven't been rehearsing any Nitro songs simply because I've got so much solo stuff. We'll see if people are starting to howl for it, then yeah. Honestly, I've been poking the guys in Nitro to play a little bit, so maybe we'll just save those Nitro songs for live Nitro gigs.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to hear. And for Nitro, is it still the same guys from back in the days? Is it all you 4 guys, or is it different people in the band? Same singer? Who's in the band?
It's a beautiful thing. We converge and diverge at some weird intervals. Right now, we're a little bit diverged, but we'll converge again, I'm sure. To answer the question, the voice of Nitro is Dana Confer, always was, always will be. Lead guitarist is always John Hazel. Bassist is always Brad Gensmore. And me, my Clark Kent, you'll see my name on the back of the records, is Tim Wilson. I'm proud of that name. Wax Mekanix helps me get out of my own way and get out of my own head, just like it did for Ringo, it did for Elton John, and it did for Freddie Mercury. It's good enough for me.
That's great. No, that's cool. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Wax, I appreciate your time. I'm sorry it's short. We'll do this again. You got new music coming out. There's way more to get into with your story. I'd love to dig into, but I appreciate the few minutes that we had to at least get people who haven't heard about you, hear about your new record, the new solo stuff. It's killer. It's great. People need to check it out. All the socials, it's there. And hopefully we'll talk again real soon. And next year, it sounds like a big year coming up for you musically, whether it be with Nitro or your solo stuff. It sounds like there's a lot coming. So I'm happy to hear about that.
Thank you much, brother. I can't overstate how much I appreciate what you do, not just because you do it with me, but because you do it for everybody. Thank you for what you do.
Oh, you're too kind, man. Take care. We'll talk soon. Be well, Wax.
Take care.
Take care, man. Bye.